Drucker is a senior editor at Roll Call. He also has a new blog on House politics called GOPers, and you can see the entire interview with Speaker Boehner posted there. David, how you doing on this Monday?
Good morning. Good to be here, John.
Thanks. Here's the question. You know, the Speaker said Congress has been America's favorite whipping boy for more than 2 centuries, but if you look at some of the poll numbers out from Quinnipiac, it's not just Congress in general. Republicans do not do as well. They get a 20% approval rating from the American people in this survey. Democrats get a 32% approval rating. Why the difference?
Well, I think right now there are a lot of people frustrated with the Republican Party. First of all, you have conservatives who probably are still voting Republican by and large, but they don't like the party. They don't like how it has functioned in Congress for one reason or another. They're unhappy with the results of the presidential election, and they don't know that it's heading in the right direction. You then have independent voters that are not necessarily happy with Republicans, despite the fact that the Republican presidential candidate did fairly well with independent voters last November. And then, of course, you have everybody else who probably doesn't support the party in any event, and you have issues the party has with ethnic minorities, young voters, female voters, and so it's a down period for Republicans, and they're looking for their way back up.
It doesn't help that at just about every opportunity, the man who lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue takes out his megaphone and criticizes House Republicans in particular. He's been doing that until maybe the last week or so.
Well, look, John, I mean, that's part of the business that they're in, all right? A Democratic president is rarely going to have nice things to say about House and Senate Republicans, and if that's where congressional Republicans are focused on what a mean guy the president is, they're not going to get anywhere. I think for Republicans, the real issue is trying to connect everything that they're trying to do in Congress with everyday Americans, with voters. Really connecting with their everyday problems. This is what I asked Speaker Boehner about, and he said, in fact, that House Republicans in particular, but all Republicans, have to do a better job of connecting their relentless focus on less spending and a smaller federal government, on reining in the deficit and balancing the budget over 10 years, to how that's actually going to help people. Because for many voters, they hear that and it sounds nice in theory. Nobody likes exploding deficits and over-budgeting. But it doesn't necessarily translate to problems they're facing every day and how it's going to help them get a job and, increase the size of their bank account. And that's where Republicans have to do much better. Democrats, in part because of the things they push for, have just been better. When voters need health care, when voters need more money, you're more likely to have a Democrat with a policy geared at accomplishing that, and that's easier. When you're talking about taking things away, I think you have to work a little harder explaining why that's going to help. But these are the things Republicans believe, and if they want to be successful, they have to stop complaining and they have to work at it and try and make that connection.
Well, you asked Speaker Boehner about how, the role that he sees for himself in helping the party regain popularity among voters. Let me read for our viewers what he responded. There's no doubt that as a party we need to do a better job of communicating and engaging with the American people. In the House, we only control 1/2 of 1/3 of the government, and going up against the presidential bully pulpit is tough. But our priorities are still firmly aligned with the American people's, creating jobs, cutting wasteful government spending, and expanding opportunity for all Americans so they can achieve the American dream. Our job as House Republicans is to put our principles into legislation, like the budget that we will vote on this month, and show how those solutions help families in our congressional districts and around the country. And yet, whenever a Republican budget proposal comes out, you hear Democrats in the House, on the Senate side, in the White House, running out and suggesting that, Republicans want to throw children off of Head Start, for instance.
Well, of course. When you're a Democrat, you're opposed to Republicans. It's your job to make everything they want to do look as draconian as possible. For the Republicans, their job, instead of just saying, I want to cut the budget, I want to reform Medicare, what they ought to do, and this is just an example, is talk to the American people about why they think their overhaul of Medicare will actually save it and preserve it. This is something that can connect with people. This is something that people say, oh, I see, you're not trying to take it away, you're trying to make sure I have access to it. And look, is it harder when you're trying to change the retirement age at which you could access Medicare and things of that nature? Sure, those things can be harder. but you can't accomplish it if you simply say, we can't afford it, we need to take it away. And again, if you look at Democrats, what do Republicans and conservatives think they're going to say? Please look at this nice, wonderful idea my opposition has. I disagree with it, but intellectually it's very sound. This is just not how politics works. I think a lot of Republicans understand this, but they need to internalize it.
One more quick quote. The president often talks about Republicans as being the party of millionaires and billionaires and people with private corporate jet owners. In terms of communicating with the rank and file, the speaker told you it is critically important that we communicate how our solutions will help middle-class families and small businesses on a day-to-day basis. It all starts with jobs. Whether it's reforming our tax code to create jobs and increase take-home pay, addressing our debt crisis to unleash more economic growth, reducing red tape that is a burden to employers, or approving projects like Keystone that will both create jobs and lower energy costs, it's all about connecting these solutions to families and small businesses. It sounds great. Can he put it in practice?
Well, I think they can try. I think it's hard to overcome a bully pulpit, but parties have done this before. I think what Republicans need to do is pass legislation that puts this into practice. It will die in the Senate. The president won't sign most of it. But there's another election in 2 years, and what you can do is go to the voters and you can say, this is what we would do if we were in charge. These are the ways these pieces of legislation would help you. Democrats actually did this in the past, even as a minority, back before they got a hold of the majority in the '06 elections, where they would put out proposals and say, this is how it would help you if we were in charge. These are things Republicans can do. They're going to get enough attention for it, and it can actually further their cause. It's going to take them a while.
David Drucker, the man who spoke to Speaker of the House, John Boehner, in that extensive interview. David, thank you.
Thanks a lot, John.
We have been talking about the White